All right, I think we're ready to start talking about doing user authentication. Authentication with web apps, there's a variety of different mechanisms that are used. We're going to use one that's fairly common, which is the idea of an API token. So whenever we get a request, we're going to ask the user who's sending the request to send a token that we've specified, and basically if they send that particular token with the request, then we're going to say, okay, this person has been authenticated. To provide that, there's a few changes that we need to make. One is here in our database. If you click on SayIt users, the word, not the icon, it shows you the structure. You need to add a column. You're going to add one called API token, and its type will be character varying and a length of 60. So our tokens are going to be 60 characters. That's just a number that was picked. I've actually already created mine, so I'm going to cancel. So there's my API token that has 60 characters space in it. So here's our plan. When we register a new user, we're going to require the same things as if they were typing it in. Instead, it's just coming from an API request. So we need to know name, email, password, and password confirmation. And when we create, when that user is created, we're actually going to also essentially log them in. And the way it's going to look is like here, if I click on SayIt users, show the contents. Over here is the API token field. If this API token gets set to something besides null, then that means that user is, for the purposes of the API, logged in. And what we're going to do is when a request comes, we're going to look and see if they provided a token and compare the token to what's here in API token. So right now, because we haven't done anything with these users are all from the perspective of the API, not logged in. So first we're going to define a register action. The way we're going to do this is we're going to edit the register controller that came with the, when we created this new app. Laravel just automatically gives you a register controller. Oh, one other thing, we'll need to install a helper. This is another 15 minutes of savings here. We're going to use a command to generate a random token, and that command needs one of these Laravel helper functions. And in older versions of Laravel, the helpers were included by default. With version 6, you actually have to type a command to get that installed. So looks like this one's taken a couple minutes to run. I'm not expecting it to take super long. If it doesn't finish up here pretty quick, then I'm going to go do something different. Okay, looks like it decided to finish. So here we go. We're going to go to controllers, auth, register controller. And again, that's just came with Laravel. What we're going to do is we're going to come down here to the bottom of it, and we're going to add a new function. This is a function that's going to get called. If it exists, it will get called automatically after a user is registered. So here's the idea. If a user is successfully registered, we're going to have a request object, and they're also going to send an object that represents the user or from the user model. What we're going to do is okay, you know what? Hold that thought. We need to come back here. We've got to do something else first. Okay, we'll get here. We also need to make a modification to our user model. Since the user model now has an API token in it, we're going to create a function, and that function is going to be called generate token. This generate token function will be called anytime we need to get a new token And this, of course, refers to the user model that we're in right now. By referencing this attribute API token, what I'm essentially doing is creating it. That attribute didn't exist before. I'm making it. So this will create a string random, and this is the function that we needed the helper for. That string random 60 will give us a random string of 60 characters. Then we're going to use the built-in code with a model to say, okay, now that we've added this API token value, go ahead and save it. That'll actually put it in the database for us. And we're also going to return that token because we're going to use that token other places when we call this. So generate token gives us a random token, saves it to the database under that user's name, and then returns the value of the token that was saved. So that's the behavior that we're going to get from users. So coming back to our register controller, if somebody is registered, we're going to take the user object of the user that was registered and call the generate token function. That's going to do that extra behavior to create the token, save it in the database, and return it. And then we're going to return a response JSON. Oh, you know what? I'm going to read in my file that I saved instead of typing all that. This time, it's not an error. We're going to return some data. Basically, we're going to return the information about the user that was created, including the token. So we're going to use this toArray function method to expand the user data and return it. And because we have successfully created a user, we're going to have a created response code 201. Okay, this request object that I'm referring to here, see, you should be proud of me, or I'm actually remembering this time. We need to make sure that gets included up here. So we're going to say use illuminate HTTP request. I don't know. I'll give that a 50-50 chance of all that stuff we did working. We still need to create a route. And in this case, it's a post route. And we're going to call the route register. And we're not using the SayIt controller. We're going to call auth backslash, not forward slash, register controller, and we're going to call the register function. That's different than the registered function that we wrote. The register function is one that already exists in the register controller, and the registered function that we created is one that's called if registration is successful. So I think we're ready to try this out. So let's load up our Postman. Here we go. The route is register. I'm going to go ahead and click send and see what we get back. Oh, it's a post route, not a delete. Let's try that again. Given data was invalid. Oh yeah, I haven't specified name, email, and password. Okay, so I'm going to add these fields. Name, Freddy Man, email, fred5@fun.com, password, whatever. Let's try one more. Password, I think it's called password underscore confirmation. And we'll make this whatever 2. We aren't going to have those not match. We're going to just test out some of this behavior. Relation users does not exist. Okay, I've seen that before too. I forgot to make a change in my register controller. Let's come back up to register controller, and here in this validation code, they're assuming that our table is called users. I forgot to change that. It's called SayIt users. That's the name of the table. Let's try this again. Given data was invalid. Email has already been taken. Let's just verify that. So in the SayIt users table, fred5@fun.com, sure enough. Okay, so that did not pass validation. Password confirmation does not match. Yeah, that's true. So let's do something. I don't think Fred8 is in there. Send. Bad request. Password confirmation does not match. I wonder why it's showing dots there. Maybe there's spaces after it. Let's get these things. Let's try that again. Now 201 created, and here's the information that was stored. Notice this API token. That API token is the special token value that we're going to send with future requests. And real quick, let me show you how to send it with future requests, so that when we get there, we'll have this in there. We can tweak it a little bit. Real quick, this API token that comes back, what we're going to do is take that token and make sure it gets pasted in here under authorization. We're going to use bearer token method for authentication, and we're going to paste in that token value here in this box. So there's my token, it's pasted in. Now in all my future requests, it's going to pass that token along with whatever request I made. Just to verify, if we come up here and we do a refresh, here's Fred8, Freddy Man, password, and what else did we have? Oh yeah, the API token, right? There's the token that is now our token. So we're counting this Freddy Man as having been logged in.